All right, everybody, welcome back to Only Stupid Answers. Last time I was talking about the story behind DC versus Marvel, which led to, in between issues 3 and 4 of it, the Amalgam crossover, a series of one-shots. One was in April 1996, another was in June 1997, where the characters of the two publishers were fused into individual characters. Are you familiar with this at all, Roxy?
No.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited to share these fusions with you.
I don't even really know what you mean by that sentence. The characters are fused into individuals. So like they would take two characters and make it into one character?
A brand new character. So
they would take Spider-Man and Batman, and then it would be Bat-Spider.
That would be what they did. That's not one of the characters, but that is the principle behind what happened. Yeah. And so they did 12 one-shots in 1996, another 12 in 1997, and this was catnip to me as a child. It was so, the novelty of it was so cool, and some of them were pretty cool. The commitment to it also was incredible. So back in some comics still do this. It's less common now, but especially back in the 90s, there'd be letter pages in the back of comics where fans would write in and give their theories or whatever. And usually it was the editor, maybe the writer, would respond to these letters. In Amalgam Comics, there was fake letter pages, as if Amalgam had always been a publisher and had events. Like one of the events they alluded to was Secret Crisis of the Infinity Hour. So there was this whole fictional history as if Marvel and DC had never existed, and it had always been Amalgam Comics. And so I just love that attention to detail and that attention to world building off page. So we're going to go through all the one shots that we got. First up, this was part of the first wave, was Amazon, which was a fusion of Storm and Wonder Woman.
So was it the characters that had previously fought?
Sometimes.
Were the characters that were merged? Okay.
I'm going to be honest with you. Some of this stuff tracks. I just praised the world building. Some of it's a little off the rails and like contradictory to each other. Shocker. Surprise.
That one was awesome. Storm, Wonder Woman, Amazon looked amazing.
Well, you're giving some of your top talent at the time an excuse to like, what would a fusion of these two universes look like? And so you get some really cool stuff, and it turns out Aurora Monroe looks really great in the Wonder Woman attire. It's a good combo. Here's one of the weirder ones that I own. I'll tell you when the ones I picked up when I was a kid, but I've since I bought a bunch when I was a kid, but I only had so much allowance. So as an adult, I went and I filled in the gaps. So I didn't pick up Amazon as a kid, and I didn't pick up this next one, which is Assassins. This was a title featuring Cat's Eye, which was a combination of Elektra and Catwoman, and Dare, who is a female version of a combination of Deathstroke and Daredevil. In this one, they fight Big Question, which is a combination of Kingpin and the Riddler. They were having a lot of fun over here. But I don't quite know how you get
powers. Are both powers combined?
Sometimes. Again, this is one I own, but I haven't read yet. Sorry, gang. This next one was actually really important to the whole endeavor. This is Doctor Strange Fate. The combination should be obvious. Doctor Strange and Doctor Fate. However, under that helmet is Charles Xavier. So it's a combination between Doctor Strange, Doctor Fate, and Professor X. And actually, Doctor Strange Fate is really important to the crossover because him and Access, I mentioned in the DC versus Marvel portion, DC and Marvel co-own a character called Access, who was a bridge between the two worlds. Him and Doctor Strange Fate are the only two characters that realize the worlds have been amalgamated. And there's a conflict between them. Doctor Strange Fate wants to keep the worlds combined, and Access wants to separate them back into the original worlds.
Cool.
And of course, the publishers.
I like that a lot.
The publishers and the editors were on the side of Access. They also wanted to separate them. Now, you'll notice something, Roxy, that is very different from the now times. Not one of these crossovers features the Avengers. And it's because in the 90s, nobody gave
I thought you had a Thor coming. No?
We do have a Thor, individual characters, but there's not, and there is a team that's a combination of Justice League and the Avengers that appears in these stories, but they don't have their own one shot. And it's because at the time, nobody, like you'll notice in the DC versus Marvel, no Iron Man, because it wasn't until the MCU that they gained the cultural cachet that they have now.
There was Captain America, there was Thor.
There was Captain America, there was Thor, but like no Iron Man, no Hawkeye.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, there was Spider-Man, who wasn't an Avenger at the time.
Right.
He didn't become an Avenger until the 2000s. So to that point, our big Justice League crossover one is JLX. It's a combination with the X-Men.
Huh.
Yeah. This one is a no-brainer. Dark Claw, which is a combination of Wolverine and Batman, which I definitely picked up as a kid. Of course I did. Look at that costume. Are you kidding me?
This looks effing sick.
Dark Claw is a winner, and his main antagonist is the Hyena, which is a combination of Joker and Sabretooth, who is just as much of a nightmare as you can imagine. This is another no-brainer. Super Soldier, which is a combination of Captain America and Superman.
That's interesting. Don't we call the character Super Soldier in the Marvel Disney Plus show?
He gets the power he through the Super Soldier serum. That's how he gets his powers. Yeah. So we just call him in this one. We just call him Super Soldier. His main antagonist is Green Skull, which is a combination of Lex Luthor and the Red Skull. Again, some of these are way off the rails. We got bullets and bracelets. And so this is, I don't even know how to describe this. Steve Trevor is combined with the Punisher, and he has a relation.
Castle and Diana together again. Wow.
And so since Aurora Monroe is Amazon, is our version of Wonder Woman, Diana Prince is now her own individual character that's hanging out with this universe's version of Punisher, and they have like a kid together and junk. It's wild.
When did she go blue?
Yeah, I mean, this looks like in the 90s, Wonder Woman had a costume kind of similar to this.
No, her hair.
Her hair. Oh, yeah. Well, listen, that's how we did it back in the 90s, Roxy. You had dark hair. If you had black hair, you had to highlight it with something, so you highlighted it with blue.
Right, of course.
This one is, I do appreciate that in this, they did deep cuts. One of them was Magneto and the Magnetic Men. So they combined Magneto with the Metal Men. And they combine the Metal Men.
Oh my God.
Yeah. They combine the Metal Men with different versions of the Brotherhood of Mutants. So like obviously we have Quicksilver, a version of Quicksilver in there.
This is so fun.
Yeah.
This is so fun. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then we've got Speed Demon. This is another complicated one. This is the Flash with Ghost Rider with Etrigan the Demon. Here's the one DJ's favorite as a kid, Spider-Boy, which is a combination of Connor Kent, Superboy, and Spider-Man.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Who's to the left of him?
That is Bizarnage, who is a combination of Carnage and Bizarro.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Here's what I'm excited. I didn't pick this up until I was an adult, but this is X Patrol, which is a kind of a combination between Doom Patrol, X-Force, and the Teen Titans. And the focus character here
What is happening on her chest?
Roxy, the 90s are happening. All right. The 90s are happening. Right. And anybody that's worked with artists, especially in the 90s, can tell you artists are some of the horniest people on the planet. But that's not the craziest thing that's happening on this cover, Roxy. That's Shatter Starfire, by the way, obviously. But when I got this as an adult, you may notice, if you look at the title, you may notice her sword is going behind the title, but we have two characters that are theoretically behind her, but are in front of the title.
Yeah.
So it really messes with my head because they are not tiny characters. These aren't like Ant-Man people. They are the same size as this person. She's just supposed to be further in the foreground, but the placement of the title makes everybody's placement very confusing.
No, I can kind of get it.
Yeah. Yeah. So
who's in the bottom left?
The bottom left that's Niles Cable, which is a combination of Niles Calder, the leader of Doom Patrol, and Cable, the leader of X-Force. Yeah.
He looks like the guy from Game of Thrones.
Next we have, now we're getting into the second wave that was published in 1997, the second wave of crossovers. And they were really experimenting here. We've got Bat Thing, which is a combination of Man Thing and Man Bat. Why did this get its own one shot? Great question. I don't know.
This isn't working for me as much. It also feels like he's wearing a little black dress.
He's not, but I see it. I do see it. The shading there. Yeah, I 100% see it. This is a fun one. So
the low cut, deep V, little black dress.
Yep, love it. And I like the little nose tendrils. Yeah. This is. I didn't buy this one as a kid. This is a fun one. So they took the concept of Dark Claw, and they, at the time of Batman the Animated Series, they had tie-in comics that were done in the style of the animated series. They did that, but for Dark Claw, as if Dark Claw had his own Batman the Animated Series show, and this was the tie-in comic to that.
This is very simple looking.
Yeah, it's the same style as like Batman the Animated Series, which is kind of a, you know, more stripped down.
Yeah, what I saw. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. This is another weird one. We got Generation Hex, which is a combination of Jonah Hex and Generation X. Why those? Good question. I do not know.
Who is this blonde chica?
You know what? Let me bring that up. I don't know off the top of my head. Let's look at our comprehensive list of Amalgam Comics characters. Here we go. Generation Hex. Okay, here's who we have. We have John O'Hex, who's an amalgamation of Jonah Hex and Jonathan Starsmore Chamber. Like I said, this is some of deep cut, like their Western characters. So I'm not going to know a lot of these off the top of my head. We've got North Star Trigger, Madam Banshee, Johnny Random, Skin Hunter. I think that's Johnny Random to the left in this image. The White Whip. Oh, that's what that is. That's the White Whip. That's a combination of Whip, DC's Whip, and Marvel's White Queen, Emma Frost. Yeah, I think the blonde girl, that's probably, I'm going to guess, is White Whip. And then we got Nightgate, who's a combination of Nighthawk and Gateway. Wow. Retribution, which is a combination of Firehair and Penance. Yeah, you know, everybody's favorite characters in this one.
This is wild.
Yeah.
I mean, DJ, this is kind of really cool, though.
Yeah.
Were there action figures that came out of this?
No, and I don't know the logistics, because these characters are co-owned by Marvel and DC, so I don't know.
Right.
And like, especially now, McFarlane Toys has the rights to make DC toys, and Hasbro does the Marvel toys. So I don't even know.
There's money being left on the floor somewhere, DJ.
Totally, I 100% agree. I think if they wanted to, they could do it in a way that is like Hasbro does half of them and McFarlane does half of them. Or maybe they each do their own versions. I don't know, but I agree with you, because I would buy all of them. Every Amalgam action figure, I would buy all of them.
Some of them are so sick. I'm also feel like there needs to be a new wave of cosplay, because I feel like I haven't seen nearly enough of these.
Totally. So I'm going to rapid fire some of these. Roxy, if you have anything you want to mention, just throw it out there. Here, there was a second JLX books, JLX Unleashed, and this has Amazon join the ranks of the JLX. We have Lobo the Duck, which is
oh my god, a combination
of Howard the Duck and Lobo.
Oh my god, that is so good.
We have a second Super Soldier book that takes place in World War II. We have the Challengers of the Fantastic, which is a combination of the Challengers of the Unknown and the Fantastic Four. We had a second X-Patrol book. We had Iron Lantern, which is a combination of Iron Man and Green Lantern, which was very good. I liked that one as a kid.
That does look cool.
A second Magneto and the Magnetic Man. One of my favorites, which was Spider-Boy Team Up, where he teams up with the Legion of Galactic Guardians 2099. So he teams up with a version of the Legion of Superheroes from DC Comics that's combined with a bunch of Marvel's kind of like future heroes.
Spider-Boy's crazy enough is the costume and like look that merges together the easiest.
Right? It's weird to think that it would go so well, but it's like, yeah, I love it. I love that guy. I love that character. They just made him
look like Superboy wearing Spider-Man underneath.
Yes. That's the main, him and Dark Claw are the main action figures I would want. If we could get those out of this, I would love it. We got Thorian and the New Gods, which is kind of like a Jack Kirby love letter, because obviously it's combining Thor with the Fourth World and New Gods. And then this one, which is out of order, but I went through my images and out of order. This was part of the original set of 12. Bruce Wayne, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I had it in my notes originally. I bought this as a kid, but I don't remember very well. I had my notes. It's like Bruce Wayne, because Logan is Dark Claw. So Bruce Wayne is now a distinct character, who I had my notes as a combination of him and Nick Fury, except I think Nick Fury also shows up in this comic. So it's just if Bruce Wayne was an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. And the left, that's Green Skull, who's a combination of
the girl.
The girl, that's like, let me see if I can bring it up. She's a combination of a couple of different.
Because I am noticing, DJ, that they're really lacking on women, specific like DC women.
What are you talking about, Rock? They're not focusing on women. What are you talking about? That is Is that Madam Cat? Yeah, it's Madam Cat, who's a combination of Catwoman and Madam Hydra.
Oh, so they just keep using Catwoman?
Yes.
And combining her with multiple.
Yeah, a couple characters are combined multiple times. There's a few different versions of like that show up multiple times. It is a little loosey goosey. It's an example of like a bygone time that we don't really get anymore. Going back to the Marvel and DC of it all, Ron Mars said, "Quote: When we did this, it was a comic project. But 20 years later, we're dealing with multi-billion-dollar franchises and IP farms. That's what comics has grown into. I'm not saying that's good or bad. It's just the reality of the situation. These characters now, because of transmedia success, are now worth just untold hundreds of times more money than they were 20 years ago. And when they're owned by parent megacorporations, the sort of freedom and fun we had doing it in 1996 is probably a thing of the past."
At least you have that, though. Like, wait. Because that's so hard for me to know who's big and who's not, but like, where was Poison Ivy?
Poison Ivy would have shown up in Dark Claw. I don't remember her showing up at all. But you're right, and this is so. There's a brief mention of a Harley Quinn amalgam in the Dark Claw, the second Dark Claw book, and she's combined with X-Men character Spiral. And it's like now you're like, no, Deadpool. That's who you'd combine Harley Quinn with. That'd be the slam dunk. But neither of those characters were what they are now. Back then, they existed back then, but they weren't nearly the cultural touchstones that they are now. You know, there's no Guardians of the Galaxy because especially the version that we had in the movies didn't exist at this point. What are some other, like, again, Supergirl shared a couple panels in Marvel versus DC with She-Hulk because you know Superman's fighting Hulk. So so the next one is She-Hulk and Supergirl. This would be completely different if you did it now.
I know that people are going to be annoyed with this, but I do feel like it's such a bummer that they did not cater to little girls at all.
Well, yeah, and I think that's another thing that you would do better now, especially in the original graphic novel field. There's specifically DC is doing a good job in trying to attract the young adult market, and I think a lot of those are really compelling and it's really interesting. And I think what you're pointing out, Roxy, I think is still a problem today in that I don't think comics do enough to entice younger audience members. They're really catering to people like me, you know, white guys approaching their 40s, which, you know, cool. You know, I like the books we're doing. They're catering to me. I like that. But I think I discovered this. I was picking this up when I was a kid, you know? And so
it's so cool. This is like the coolest thing I've ever seen, DJ.
Yeah. So not just young people in general, but you're right. Young girls in particular. You talked about leaving money on the table. Like, however, I think people should be open to that for all the reasons. But just on a practical level, you're leaving money on the table. Those are people that would be into this, you know?
Totally.
But yeah, it would be cool. I mean, there is a glimmer of hope in that I would have told you a year ago that they would never reprint these stories, these Marvel and DC crossovers, which is why I went and I found as many as I could because I'm like, they'll never reprint it. And they are reprinting them. This is why we're talking about them. So maybe we'll get to revisit the Amalgam universe in the future. I would like to see this entire project done again now with like where the hierarchies have changed now.
DJ, I don't think that there's no way. I mean, it's not like Marvel and DC are knocking every single thing out of the park right now. Like,
good point.
This could be, I'm not saying in the next 10 years, but this could be in the next 50 years.
Yeah. Do you think in the next 50 years, that's a pretty, knock on wood, God willing, we're all still around then. But do you think they would ever do this in the movies? Do you ever think we could get to a point with superhero fatigue where they're like, I guess Superman fights Spider-Man?
I really genuinely do.
Okay.
I really genuinely do because money rules. And like, say they did any of these crossovers, but pick your favorite. Like, what would be the biggest DC Marvel crossover to you?
I mean, I think for a lot of people, Batman and Spider-Man are the two biggest.
So let's say Batman, Spider-Man. Let's just say it's just them two.
Yeah.
There's no other characters that make appearances even.
Yeah.
It's just Batman v Spider-Man or Batman and Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Whichever version. That movie is bad. If it's bad, it's making $1 billion.
Yes. You're not wrong.
There's no world
Yeah.
in which a Batman and Spider-Man makes less than $1 billion. I can't picture any world.
You're right.
So, like, the profits for these companies would be huge, huge. You only have to put in half the money. They would make, I think, it just can't see them walking away with less than hundreds of millions of dollars each. So, because of that, I think for sure in the next 50 years,
Yeah.
once they've like paired up all their own characters with every single version and reboot. Yeah, I do. I think that they'll do it.
We had a question from Jake Hefner. What are some of your favorite Amalgam characters? And then he says, I've always wanted to see Daredevil merge with someone, maybe like Nightwing. Who are some characters you'd like to see merge or think would make cool amalgam? Some of my favorites growing up were obviously Spider-Boy and Dark Claw. And then I was a big fan of Iron Lantern because I was a huge Green Lantern fan at the time. Roxy, which one of these stood out to you?
Well, no, he was asking for our own creation.
Well, he said first he asked, "What are some of your favorite amalgam characters?" But that's good. What give us one amalgam you do?
It's so weird, but like Poison Ivy, Black Widow.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, I'd be into that.
I think that'd be so cool.
That'd be sick. And I think there's thematic connections there that would be cool. I think for me, as I imagine what you do now, I think the characters you would pair off in the DC versus Marvel part and amalgam would actually be Spider-Man and Flash, because those are those two companies' biggest gateway into the multiverse. So I think those would be, and you could do some comic shenanigans of how they could fight each other in a believable way. But I think that's
meet in high school.
Yeah. So there you go. That is our discussion of DC versus Marvel and amalgam. Roxy,
I love that, DJ.
Roxy, where can the kids find what you're working on?
Everywhere at Roxy Stryer, and I'll be doing a lot of Googling to look at these full covers for the next several hours.
They're very cool. You can find me. Cool. You can find me at DJ Talks Trash. You can find the show everywhere that matters at Only Stupid Answers, but on Twitter/X.
Yank out the vowels from stupid.
And we'll see you all next time.